everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to yet another installment of my friends pick my TBR. This, I think, is installment number 4. Because I've done this multiple times, I wanted to change it up a little bit, because in the past I've asked my close friends SJ, Sophie, and Yeleni to do this for me. They're wonderful, they're amazing, but I also wanted to kind of branch out and get a little bit of a different perspective. So I reached out to my internet friends. I reached out to 4. So this go round, my friends pick my TBR, I'm gonna be reading 8 books instead of my usual 6. I got my 8 books here. So I knew immediately I was gonna reach out to Holly from Holly Hearts Books and my lovely friend Hannah from, you know, H.M. Long, the author. And I also wanted to reach out to my lovely friend Sarah Sutton, who is also an author, an indie author, who I absolutely love. And finally, I reached out to my lovely beta reader, Kat, who has beta read many things for me, and I just adore her so much. So we're gonna start with Holly's picks. And I will just be doing a brief overview of what I'm going to be reading this month. And as I pick them up and as I read them, I will talk about them more. But Holly ended up picking Zachary Ying by Sharon J. Zhao and Half a King by Joe Abercrombie, which I low-key knew that she was gonna pick because she talks about it all the time. So I knew she was gonna pick that one. So Hannah ended up picking Truthwitch by Susan Dennard, as well as Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne, which I had a feeling that this would somehow make it on this list, which I'm so excited about, but like, he's beefy. And then Kat ended up picking the Fire Chronicle, which is the second of the Books of Beginning books, which is a trilogy that she recommended me last year sometime, and I absolutely adored the first book, so I'm excited to finally get to the second. And she also picked the Mists of Avalon. Her reasoning was that she was very intrigued about this book, so she wanted me to read it to see how it is. Again, she's a chunky fantasy book, but I'm excited about this because King Arthur retellings are always my favorite. And then lastly, Sarah ended up picking Bring Me Their Hearts by Sarah Wolfe, which is a little YA, and she ended up picking Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare, which I was so shocked by. I was not expecting this one to be picked. I guess we're reading this chunky boy too, but yes, this TBR is a chunky TBR, and it's gonna, you know, hopefully take me through July. I will let you know what I pick first, and we'll see what happens then. I'm gonna tell you right now what I'm gonna read first, and it's gonna be Half a King by Joe Abercrombie because it's little, and I think that's a good way to start off this month because it's currently June 30th, so long weekend ahead of me, Canada Day, all that jazz, so I have tomorrow off, which is nice, and I'm going up to the lake this weekend, so I'm taking this with me, along with many other things, but we won't talk about those. This one is all we care about. Hello friends, I thought I would pop in with a little bit of a reading update since I did start Half a King by Joe Abercrombie this weekend when I went up to the lake. So I am officially 100 pages in. This is so far interesting. I don't really know. I've been having a hard time reading books without an audiobook. The fact that I'm reading this just with my eyeballs I'm finding it harder to concentrate on, and that's literally just a me issue. That's nothing to do with the book itself. I was reading this weekend and I got 100 pages in, and it's interesting. I'm not like super hooked yet. I have a little bit of an issue with some of the dialogue. It's like super cheesy, which is fine. It feels, what does it remind me of? Low key, not very much, but like weirdly vibe-wise reminds me a little bit of the Queen's Thief novels by Megan Wallen Turner. I've only read the first 2 of those and I didn't really like them that much, and I unhauled the entire series from my shelves because I never planned on finishing that series. It's got like the world vibe of that in a way. So we're following Prince Yarvi, and Prince Yarvi, literally chapter 1, almost page 1, has somebody run into wherever the hell he is and is like, my king. And he's like, what do you mean my king? I have a brother and a father who are ahead of me in line. And so both of his father, the king, and his brother, the heir, were killed, and so Prince Yarvi must take up the throne. Most people in this kingdom are like not okay with that because Yarvi himself is disabled. He was born with a birth defect wherein he has he calls himself like half a king because he doesn't have 2 good hands, I guess you could say. One of them is more deformed, I guess you could say. That doesn't feel like the right way to say it, but he says he only has 1 good hand, so he can't really do anything with his other hand. So he's never been a fighter, he's never been super strong, he's kind of like a weakling, and he sees himself that way. And at the beginning of this, he gets you know, put on the throne. But before he can be put on the throne, his mom essentially is like, we need revenge on whoever did this to the king and my son. And he's like, well, all right, I guess I'll vow to do that. And so he vows for revenge, and then some other stuff happens, and then he eventually gets he wounds up on a slave ship, essentially, where he's like in chains. I don't know. On the back it says, but first he must survive cruelty, chains, and the bitter waters of the shattered sea. That's where I'm at. I'm gonna see how much more I can read now. I will probably let you know my thoughts and feelings when I am done, unless there's something else I want to say. But also I should probably say that this video will be mostly spoiler free. Just vibes. Just vibes. This entire reading vlog, but I'll catch up with you a little later. Hello friends. I forgot to update you a little earlier, but I'm done. Half a King by Joe Abercrombie, and it turned around for me by the end. That was actually quite good, quite entertaining. I don't know where this series could go from here though, so it's making me intrigued to get into book 2 and to see where this trilogy goes, because this is not where I thought it was gonna go at all. I'm very intrigued. I don't know, it gave me weird, like, I'm trying to remember what book it reminded me of when I was reading it. Besides the Megan Mullen Turner books, I'm just staring at my shelves right now trying to remember what it reminded me of. But first book of this video is done. I will let you guys know all my ratings and everything at the end of this video once I'm done all of the books, of course. This one surprised me for sure. And like, it ended in a way that I'm not like clamoring to get the second one. Like, it's not a cliffhanger ending, but it is an intriguing enough wrapping up of events of this book. Oh, I remember what it reminded me of. There we go. It reminds me of the very vaguely of the Kaladin arc in The Way of Kings. Very briefly. So it's like that mixed with the Megan Mullen Turner Thief books, but I liked this a whole lot more than I liked the Thief books that I read. So intriguing. As I said before, I don't really like the dialogue in here. It feels forced and not natural. And there's a couple things that the actual like exposition-y prose did that I was just like, no. No, I can write that better. Because I live in an editor brain day to day. That happens to me too often when I read books. And it hurts, but there were a couple things in here that I was just like, it pulled me right out of the story when things were said. There was one line that Garvey said, our main character, that I was like, that is not something he would ever say ever. That is so out of character. That is so out of left field. What? Joe Abercrombie, why? I was like immediately grossed out. I was not okay. And it would pull out of the story and I had to stop for like 5 minutes. I was like, Garvey would never say this. He, from like, I don't know, word go, had a lot of respect for women, and then he goes and says a line of like, well, someone was like, oh, like, you like her, don't you? And he's like, well, I don't have a working hand, but the rest of me works. And I'm like, no, Yarvi, get out of here. No, you're a child, stop. Also another thing, I don't know how old Yarvi is supposed to be in this. Is he supposed to be 14? Is he supposed to be 18? No idea. And there's also another girl in this. I also don't know her age. When she was first introduced, I was like, oh, okay, she's like a 30-year-old woman. Great. And then by the end of this, I'm like, is she supposed to be Yarvi's age? A little bit of confusion, but overall, pretty good. And I'm intrigued because this is also my first Abercrombie ever. I'm intrigued to see what his other work is like, because I know this has been pitched as a YA. It's not priced as a YA, so I don't think it is, but in some spaces it is pitched as like his YA novel, and I can see it being sort of in the same realm as like V.E. Schwab's A Darker Shade of Magic series, where it kind of bridges that YA and adult narrative, but this is definitely not a YA novel. Just from like the content in this and the way that the prose is treated, I don't know what it is. There's something vague about YA books that like this does not have. I'm intrigued to see if Joe Abercrombie's writing gets better in his other stuff, especially like his most famous series, The Blade Itself, that starts with the book The Blade Itself. I can't remember. First Law? I think it's the First Law. First Joe Abercrombie and first book of this video done. Woo! I will update you guys when I start something else. Hello friends, it is now a couple days later. Hi, I have started Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. I am picking this up simply because I have the audiobook on my library and it's gonna vanish first. So that's why I picked it up, but I'm already 104 pages in and I forgot how much I love these books. How easy they are to fall into. I will say, They are a little bit of a guilty pleasure, these Shadowhunter books. I forgot how much I loved Chain of Gold when I read it, which is the first one in this trilogy. Man, I keep going through these phases of like, I'm not gonna read any more Cassie Clare books, they're not my favorite, blah, blah, blah. And then here I am, reading it and falling in love with her friggin' writing. She's got crack in her writing. I don't know what it is. So if you don't know anything about these books, the Chain of Gold or Chain of Gold series, what's it called? The Last Hours trilogy. First book follows the kids of the characters who were in the Infernal Devices, I think that's what it's called, with the Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince, Clockwork Princess, those books, which are my favorite Cassie Clare books and like one of my favorite trilogies of all time. And so this follows their kids. So the first book, I knew immediately that I was going to pick it up because it follows the kids of my favorite trilogy, right? So I had to. So Cassie Clare can do no wrong. Like, I think the only series of hers that I don't like is the Dark Artifices. I read the first book and it was like fine. I do like the original 6-book series. I remember picking it up when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, maybe high school. 7th or 8th grade, I think. I was 14. And I ended up getting the first book and devouring it in like 2 days, being on a camping trip and like wanting to go to like bookstores nearby and like the towns nearby. So we went to Gimli and we tried to find the next book, but they didn't have it. Obviously that wasn't a thing that like a small town bookstore would have. So I ended up, I think, getting them on Kindle and burning through so many, just so quickly and quick succession. And then I remember when the last few books came out, I was in high school and I was just so in love with it. The ease in which these books can be read is ridiculous. I think it has something to do with the font that is picked, because the font in here, I wonder if they mention it in the typeset page. Because I know, like, for example, the font in Rick Riordan's books is Centaur, I think, which is very fitting. But it's one of those fonts that is so easily readable. And this is definitely a font like that. The text for this book was set in Dolly? Maybe. Interesting. But yeah, I think it has something to do with that because it is so easy on the eyes. I have the audiobook this time and I'm listening to it at 2.8 speed right now, but I probably will up it to like 3 speed when I'm going through. But yeah, this is the second book in the Chain of Gold series. So Chain of Gold, as I said, follows the kids, and there's some spicy relationship stuff, and follows Cordelia Carstairs, James Herondale, and there's the Blackthorn family, and there's the Merry Thieves, which are like James's friends, and I love the Merry Thieves so much. Like, their personalities just jump off the page. Literally first chapter in to this book, I wrote because I forgot how much I love these books. I forgot how easy it is to fall into these books because I was a chapter in and I'm like, I'm in, I'm ready, I'm here. I don't even need to remember what book 1 was about, but like, I'm here. And my favorite character, Anna, is in this, and also we love Magnus. We're in it, and I'm ready to be entrenched in some angst, just to live in my teenage days and relive that nostalgia. Because I'm turning 25 this year. Like, I don't like reading about teens anymore. But there's something about these books. They're crack. They're so good. I will update you when I'm halfway through. Hello, friends. It is a couple days later since I last talked to you. I've officially hit the 400-page mark of the Chain of Iron book. And again, I keep forgetting how addictive these Shadowhunter books are. There is nothing I like more than being able to just sink into a narrative immediately when I pick up a book and not want to put it down. And I have not had that feeling in so long with a book, and I forgot that the Shadowhunter books were like that. What can I say about it? All I can say is that if Cassandra Clare kills off any of these Merry Thieves, I will riot. So if you've read the first book, you know about James and his bracelet, right? And I swear to God, if somebody else doesn't find out about that bracelet and helps him with it to get it off of him, I cannot wait to see what happens when that bracelet gets off of him, because I want to strangle the person responsible for that. Oh man, I forgot how much I loved the angst in these stories. And the fact that this specific story is in like Victorian London, or like a little bit after. I'm living my very best life with this. But because it's Cassandra Clare, and I know what she does with her characters, and she has zero mercy, I'm terrified for these kids, and I'm terrified for myself, because I don't want to go through that. I don't want to go through anything. I haven't heard a single thing about Chain of Iron, and I know that the next one is coming out in January of 2023, and I will be pre-ordering it. I will be, because, or at least buying it when it comes out, because I want it, because I'm gonna need to know how this series ends. I'm gonna need to know. Every time I read a Cassandra Clare book, I get the urge to reread a Cassandra Clare book. You know, the clutch that Cassandra Clare has on the nostalgia in me is ridiculous. Like, it's a different kind of nostalgia if I was to reread like Percy Jackson, right? Because Percy Jackson was something that I read in high school but appealed to my younger self. Like, when I read it in high school, I was like, why didn't I read this? As an 11-year-old, I would have freaking loved it. That's because I was in my Harry Potter spiral at the time. But when I read stuff like that like appeals to my childhood self. When I read Cassandra Clare books just in general, it appeals to the high school self in me. And that self wakes up and goes, girl, you know we love these books. Why do you deny it? And I'm just like, listen, I keep forgetting how much I love them until I'm actually reading them. I'm gonna keep going tonight, and we're gonna see how far I get into this, because I need to make sure that they don't all like die in the end, because that would be nice for them to not die. But I don't trust Cassandra Clare. She'll do whatever the hell she wants, you know? I'm done. And what the hell was that last sequence? One of my least favorite tropes is miscommunication. But one of my favorite things is chase through the city to explain yourself. God damn it, Cassandra Clare, you're too good at this. I need book 3, like right now. I want to start it. And it's not even published yet. Holy bananas. I swear to God, if these characters aren't happy by the end of the next book and aren't all in a good situation, I will riot. We were so close. Oh, and then it all fell apart. Oh my God. The cruelty of interpersonal relationships. What the actual living hell was this book? I'm so mad. Oh my God, I haven't felt this way about a book in so long. All right, well, book 2 of this challenge is done. Excuse me while I go and pre-order the 3rd and final book of this series. Damn, why did I wait so long to read it? Hello friends, it is now a couple days later since I finished Chain of Iron, and the next book I am picking up is The Mists of Avalon, Marion Zimmer Bradley. So I picked this up and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna find the audiobook, and I found the audiobook on Scribd, and the audiobook on Scribd says it's 13 hours long. And I look at this and I'm like, there's no way. Right? This is an 800-page tome. There's no way this is 13 hours. So I do some investigating. This is an omnibus of the 4 Mists of Avalon novels. I went through and I found book 2 is The High Queen. Book 1 is The Mistress of Magic. Book 3 is The King's Stag. And then book 4 is The Prisoner in the Oak. And if book 1 on Scribd, which is The Mistress of Magic, if that one is 13 hours long, that means, and that's only 200 and some pages, 231 pages, I'm shook. This is so long. So, because this is technically 4 novels in one, I'm gonna try and get through one of them at least. Because I know Kat did pick this book, this physical book, for me to read. But we will consider the Mists of Avalon book 1 in this omnibus, because we're fine. We're good. We're golden. We're gonna see how this one goes. All right, so I'm on page 14, and this is like not good. All right, I read prologue, and in the second paragraph of the prologue, we have this sentence. And now, when the world has changed, and Arthur, my brother, my lover, king who was and king who shall be, lies dead. And I was like, my brother, my lover? What? And then on the next page, it's the same thing. But the strife is over. I could greet Arthur at last when he lay dying, not as my enemy and the enemy of my goddess, but only as my brother. And then in the next paragraph, and so Arthur lay at last with his head in my lap, seeing me neither sister nor lover nor foe. So there's incest in this? Which, okay, like, it's not good. It's real not good. And then I started reading this 14 pages in, and the amount of absolute hating on other religions, especially Christians, is ridiculous. I don't believe in God, but like, to me, it's ridiculous the amount of God hating and Christian hating is in this. They need to chill. Then I went on to Goodreads to add this to my Goodreads, and I was I'm actively reading it. And I was reading some of the reviews for The Mists of Avalon. So many of them mention that this author is garbage. That this author apparently sexually abused her own children alongside of her husband. Like, her husband and her would sexually abuse their kids and participated in underage relationships as well, like adult children relationships. So pedophilic acts. So I think this is gonna be a DNF because I'm on page 14 and I'm having a hard time with it. Yeah, no, we're done. We're done with this. We've just had confirmation that it is Igraine, the mother of Morgaine, who births Arthur. And if Morgaine is Arthur's lover, that's not cool. No. 25 pages in to this massive omnibus, and I'm sorry, Kat, I'm DNFing. Because I'm DNFing, and so early on, like, I gave it 25 pages out of over 800. The second book that Kat picked for me is the Fire Chronicle, which is the second book in a trilogy. So to make up for the fact that I'm DNFing The Mists of Avalon, I'm just gonna read book 3 as well in this video. And we're gonna do both of these, book 2 and 3, for Kat's picks instead of The Mists of Avalon, because oh boy, what a mess. Hello friends, excuse my bedraggled appearance. It is too hot outside and I just got back from grocery shopping, but I wanted to pop in because today I decided to start another book for this video, and I am currently 116 pages into Bring Me Their Hearts by Sarah Wolfe. This is a pick from my friend Sarah Sutton, and I'm not enjoying it. It's not going very well. It's very YA, and you know, it might be the narrator, because the narrator, oh, I don't know, she sounds like a teenage girl, which I guess is good for a YA book, but in like a bad way. And the prose of the actual book is not like fantastic. This is not going to be fantastic, but anyways, it follows Zara, who is a heartless person who, you know, literally has no heart, kind of heartless. She is a mortal and unaging soldier, and she's bound to someone called the Night Singer, but she just longs for freedom. She longs to have her heart back and return to her. In a surprising turn of events, her Night Singer, the witch that is, you know, has taken her heart and is bound her in magic, gives her a mission that will free her along with a bunch of other heartless to get the heart of the Crown Prince Lucian and to like stop a war. I don't know how that would stop a war. In my head that would start a war, but that's kind of what it is. And she has to infiltrate court as a noble to try and like get his hand in marriage and thus get him in private and then rip out his heart, kind of a thing. In concept it's really cool, but there's a few moments in here like that have kind of had me sitting, because when I was running around getting groceries in my car, I was just like, if you were heartless, like if you had no heart and quote unquote heartless, wouldn't you not feel any emotions? Like, wouldn't that be the logical step of being like, you know, a heartless cold soldier? But in this, our main character feels so much. I'm intrigued by the take on it, that it's not like literally like, you know, playing on the term heartless, like you don't have any care or empathy in the world. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Honestly, like if I wasn't reading it for this video, I probably would DNF it, but I don't want to DNF another book for this video. I will probably finish it before I talk to you next because it's not very exciting. This is definitely the sort of YA that I would have loved as a teenager. Definitely. This feels like the same kind of brand of like Graceling, but I loved Graceling. Kind of like a worse Graceling. Or like, I don't know, what were the books that I read when I was a teenager. Like Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater. I remember like the vampire books that were like written by PC Cass, I believe, and her daughter. Like those books, like the kind of low-key bad YA fantasy, but the stuff that I just consumed at top speed when I was a teenager because it was just like, give me more of this. It feels like that. I would have loved this as a teenager, but as a almost 25-year-old, it's not doing it for me. It's not doing it for me. So that's alright. Sarah knocked it out of the park with her first pick with Chain of Iron, so I'm not too worried. But at least I get this off the good old TBR then. Another intriguing thing is that our main character is coded as a cannibal, but she isn't actively one, I don't believe. I don't believe she has consumed human flesh. No, wait, I briefly debate telling him humans don't taste all that good until I remember normal girls don't eat people. Okay, so first page confirmed that she has eaten people before, but she is like, as this Heartless, she's essentially reduced to a vampire-like person because she consumes exclusively hearts and livers, because if she eats regular human food, she gets really, really sick and then like bleeds red out of her eyes, or cries red out of her eyes. Metal. But like, the concepts are so cool, but I just don't know if I'm liking the execution. I think that's what it is. All right, my guys, I'm done. No, that one's a no. That one was not good. It was not good. I would have liked it when I was a teenager, but it is bad. It is bad. It has whack world building, random creatures for no reason at all. It has inconsistencies. It has a moment where this girl is heartless, for God's sake, and she literally says, my heart skipped a beat. I'm like, no it didn't. You don't have a heart. I'm mad at it. I skimmed the last 40%. It's not good, but it's done. So what would have saved it, like almost an entire star, is if it had leaned into what it was trying to be. So I wanted to be this gritty, angsty YA with like a monstrous girl who's like coded as cannibalistic and is cannibalistic, as I mentioned in the previous clip, but like they never lean into it, and she has too many feelings for being someone who is heartless and who is supposed to be this killing machine. She has too many feelings. She's such a, like, I want to say a Mary Sue, but like a, oh, I'm so bad kind of a Mary Sue. Like, I'm not a good person, I'm a monster. It would have gotten like almost an entire another star if it had leaned into what I wanted it to near the end. So spoilers, I usually don't include spoilers in this, but I'm gonna put spoilers on this because if you want to skip, just skip over until when I put the timestamps is when I start the next book. But so this whole thing is that she has to steal this prince's heart, right? And I really, really, really wanted her to actually go through with it, but she was too much of a pussy and didn't. And I was like, girl, I don't care that you love him. You're a monster. Be monstrous. Like, lean into it. Oh my God. Stop complaining. Anyways, that's done. Hello friends. So it is now July 16th. I decided last night to, after finishing the Sarah Wolf book, I picked up the second book's the beginning book, Fire Chronicles, and I'm currently 126 pages in. And it has been so long since I read the first one. This was my mistake, not just reading the entire trilogy in one go, because I forgot. I don't remember anything about the first book, really. Like, it's taking me a while to like sit down and be like, okay, what's going on in this world? There's so much happening. Because the first book is called The Emerald Atlas, and it introduces a really intriguing aspect of time travel. I usually am not one for time travel in my books, but this middle grade series handled it really, really well. In the first book, which was awesome, having a hard time concentrating because my anxiety is really high today. I also forgot, there's little things with John Stevens' writing that grates on me a little bit, grates on my editor brain. That's a thing, but just so you guys know, the books in the beginning follow a trio of siblings who, when like 10 years previous to the start of the first book, their parents disappeared. So they're like technically orphans, and they've been like shunted from orphanage to orphanage, when finally one day they get collected by this orphanage that doesn't actually exist. And it's like in this slightly magical world. Michael, Emma, and Kate are the three siblings. They discover a enchanted book called, it's like one of the books at the beginning, and it like can take them through time, and they end up solving this mystery and like fixing something in time about 15 years previous to where they are, which like saves their little town that they're in. And then they kind of decode that they are part of a like prophecy. They don't know what the prophecy is yet, but their parents have also been like taken, which is why they've been missing for 10 years. They've been taken, and people are like hunting this power of all of these 3 books at the beginning. And there's like, you can't have the same book in multiple time zones, so when they travel back in time, they have to be careful, because if they go to a time where the book exists already, their copy of the book will disappear, so then they cannot travel again in time because they use the book to travel. It's this really interesting little mechanic, and I really enjoy it as a middle grade series. I will let you guys know how I feel about this one as I go through it. Hello friends, it is now the following day, and I wanted to pop in because I have finished the Fire Chronicle by John Stevens. This is the 2nd book in the Books of Beginning trilogy, and it was fine. I think the first book was definitely better than this one. I had a really hard time with the dialogue this go around, and I think it's just because it's so unrealistic. Like, the dialogue feels grating on my ears, but the story itself was fine. It's just fine. I don't really know what I'm going to rate that one, but I definitely liked the first one better than this one. I don't know why, but I don't really know what I'm going to read next for this. I did say I was going to do the last book in the Books of Beginning, and I think I will, but I don't really want to dive into it right now. But other than that, I have Truthwitch, and I have Zachary, Ying, and then I have The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. We'll see what I do next, but I will report back when I pick one. We are reading Truthwitch next. Now, this book has been on my physical shelves and on my physical TBR for so long. This is probably one of the oldest books that I've had on my shelves, on my TBR. And it is one of those books that I have almost unhauled every unhaul that I do. But then I talk myself into keeping it because I'm like, but I'm still interested in it, sort of. So I'm glad that Hannah picked this one. I needed to read it. I needed to finally read it and get it off my shelves. In the case that I'm thinking it's gonna be, read it and love it. Because I'm currently 122 pages in. I'm just starting chapter 11, as you can tell by my little annotation, and I'm really liking it. The kind of like that I have a feeling in like the pit of my chest and like the back of my brain that I'm gonna need to go out and get the next books when this is done so that I can keep reading this series. That kind of liking this book, which is very interesting. But then I realized that the publisher is Tor Teen, and I trust Tor with my entire life. Apparently their teen imprint is just as good as their adult imprint as so far. But okay, so this follows 2 different witches, and what should I say first? This world feels so lived in from like the first chapter, and I love the first chapter because it instantly kind of gives you a flavor of the 2 characters that we're immediately introduced to, Safi and Isolde. Safi is a truth witch, the name of the book, and Isolde is a thread witch, which is very interesting because thread witches remind me a little bit of the power that like Kaikei gives. I don't know if any of you have read Kaikei, but I'm currently partway through that for another video. It's a similar vibe. Like, she can see emotion threads. Isolde she can see emotion threads from other people. It says the invisible ties that bind and entangle the lives around her, but you cannot, as a thread witch, you cannot see your own ties, and you cannot see the ties of other thread witches, which is kind of an interesting little thing. And Safi, truth witch, she can tell when people are lying to her, which is really interesting power. Starts off a little bit of tension. We got to chase through the cities. We got these 2 girls working in tandem together. They are a pair. You can tell right off the bat that they are meant to be working together because they work like a well-oiled machine together, these 2. They kind of get into this fight, obviously, and then they find a place to hide after, it's not really a fight, they're running for their lives essentially, because they do something that they shouldn't have done. And then this like big crown guy is like after them, and this blood witch is after them, which is another type of witch in this world. And so as they're running, they end up at this like decision that they're gonna just leave the city. And in their attempt to leave the city, they get caught up in this, I think, magically dangerous fight at the pier where they meet another duo of witches, and they get caught up in this fight, and then they get separated because of this fight and because of other extenuating circumstances. And we have this moment which I think is really interesting because a lot of times, a lot of stories have the characters going like from their normalcy into a new world, and then the fun and games, and then there's like a midpoint where things start to change and the stakes really kick into gear or change or whatever, get worse, and then like the dark night of the soul, whatever, and then there's a reverting back to the beginning part. But In this, there's this like really early on moment where both girls, as they are separated, in this separation, they kind of revert back to what they were before in the way of like literally taking up space that they took up before they like became, is it thread sisters? Where they were like tied together and started working together and like became best friends. That's where I'm at right now. There's like some interesting dangerous magics happening. There's a lot of stakes happening. There's talk of war. Do I know what's really going on? No. Do I care? No. In the way of like, I'm good to like kind of see what happens, but I'm living. And I never thought I'd say that. Truthwitch, going pretty good. Hello friends. It is a couple days since I last spoke to you, but she's done. I'm done. I'm done Truthwitch. And holy man, was that good. So good, in fact, that I picked up today a wee package for myself from Yield Bookstore. And that package, if you would believe it, includes book 2 and 3 of this series. I went and I bought them. Of course I did. I think I bought them when I was not even halfway through this book because I knew immediately that this was going to be so good and I was going to be in it to win it with this series. And I don't know what it is about this book, but the writing is exactly the kind of writing that I like in a YA fantasy. I will forever be losing my mind over the way that our prince keeps losing his mind over Safi, and just like the way that he would just any proximity at all and he would be like, I'm gonna lose it, and I'm like, yeah man, yes you are, but not in the way you think it is. Not in the way you think you're gonna lose it, because you are just really into her. Oh, I love it so much. The intricacies of the world building in this, and it just so good. Oh my gosh, I really enjoyed this. I think the only thing is that sometimes I felt like I kept missing things. If I wasn't super careful, I would get to a part and I'd be like, wait, did I miss a piece of information? Because it felt like they were talking about something that I had no idea what they were talking about. So I think that was just a me error, because I have a tendency to sometimes skim read when I'm really into something. Like I'll just get, like my eyes will just go too fast and I'll just miss like 4 paragraphs kind of a thing when I'm really into it. But other than that, I think this was so good. This has like the flavor, it's not even close to what Realmbreaker is. That's the only one I can think of that's a good comparison to how this made me feel. Although Realmbreaker is like my favorite in a league of its own. But in the way of like, this YA fantasy does something for me that very few YA fantasies do for me. There's something about high fantasy YA when it is not first person and when it, I don't know, when the world building is delicious like this, when the relationships between the characters are so delicious like this, it just does it for me. So I think, oh, I don't even know how many years it's been. Somebody commented either on one of my videos or on a Bookstagram post or something where they said that they think that I would adore Truthwitch. You know, it might have been on one of my like potential unhauls, or like when I did a like trash my TBR video way back when that totally flopped and didn't pan out, but this was on it. As I said in this video, I've almost unhauled this many times because I've just never gotten to it. I'm so mad at myself that I waited this long to get to it. So Hannah, thank you for picking this for me and making me get to it because I needed to. Another one down, on to the next. Hello friends, I thought I'd pop in and let you know that I'm about to start the next book of this video, and that is Zachary Ying by Sharon J. Zhao, and I'm so ready for it, but I'll let you know how I feel about it when I dive in. Hello friends, I thought I'd pop in because I'm officially halfway through, roughly, Zachary Ying, and it's pretty good. I'm liking the inclusion of tech and like video game aspects in this as well. The inclusion of that plus like the ancient vibes of the emperors is interesting. It's an interesting combination for sure. So this follows Zachary Ying. At the beginning of this, he's just a Chinese American kid going to school. He's living in Maine with his mom, and he is extremely concerned with how people look at him and how people see him, and he just wants to fit in, but the kids around him kind of treat him terribly. Extremely racist, not cool. Even though they're like his friends, not cool. At the beginning of this, he meets a kid named Simon, who is also Chinese and has like a Mandarin accent, and Simon is like, hey man, do you play Mytho Magic? It's this game in this, or Mytho Realm, or whatever it's called. It's a game in this world. They kind of connect over that, and then there's this weird moment where one of Zachary's friends wants to borrow one of Simon, the other kid's monsters in this game, and there's like this confrontation, and then Simon's like, you're not getting my creature. What are you talking about? And then he gets like possessed by this creature, and then there's like a fight, and it's this moment of like Zachary and his like ancestor, the first emperor of China, meeting, and like it's this moment that is supposed to connect the two of them, but it goes wrong. So it's this whole thing of like, he's now got the emperor in his piece of technology that connects him to the game, and then his mom gets injured in an event that happens a chapter after that, and this demon like steals her soul, so he has to go to China, to Shanghai, to all these places to like seal the rift that is occurring currently into the underworld. And he goes with Simon, who is also, I really want to say like each of these kids are like the avatars of the gods, or not the gods, the avatars of these emperors. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. But yeah, this book feels like, oh, I want to say like the Fire, what is that one by J.C. Cervantes? It's another one in Rick Riordan Presents imprint with Disney. I want to say like the Fire Keeper, the Fire Runner, something like that. It feels like that meets Warcross in a way, which is interesting. And it has like Avatar references, which is kind of fun. Every once in a while, I feel like the actual writing and the actual prose of this story, I can almost hear Sharon saying it to me, because I've watched a few of their TikToks, and it just, in the way of like Sharon's like performative TikToks, it comes off a little bit grating, the prose. So it was a little bit interesting to get into. I'm not like in love with the story, you know, but I am enjoying it. It's going okay. I will update you on my thoughts when I'm done. All right, friends, it's done. The boy has been finished, completed, done. And it was good. It was really action-packed, and the kind of middle grade that really just grabs you in, and I don't know, it like teaches you stuff, and it also has like interesting moral quandaries, kind of like Iron Widow has. It was interesting. It had like the Sharon J. Janelle flair from Iron Widow. Not as brutal or as feral as Iron Widow is, of course, because that is on another level, but it does have interesting questions in this. Like, even after reading it, I still don't know if they did the right thing in the end, like, which is kind of interesting. And you also learn a lot about Chinese history in this, which stuff I didn't know. Definitely a cool read. Another one bites the dust. Hello friends, it is the same day that I finished Zachary Ying, and I'm popping in because I have made a good headway in The Black Reckoning, which is the third book in the Books of Beginning by John Stevens. And this book is going much better than the second one. I think I'm in a better headspace. And I also got the audiobook for this, and Jim Dale is narrating it, and it is giving me all of the like Aragon and the Lord of the Rings old middle grade that I would have loved as a kid vibes. So this is going much better than book 2, but I am currently 206 pages in, and I'm gonna finish this tonight because I'm determined. I don't have that much longer in the audiobook because I'm listening to it at like 3.5 times speed because Jim Dale is narrating it, and that audiobook, I don't know what it is about his audiobooks I can listen to at like warp speed and still understand them. This is book 3, so I can't really tell you what it's about. So the first book is the Atlas, the second book is the Chronicle, and now this is the Reckoning. These are the names of the books of beginning that the kids have to find, and this is like it's a fitting name because it is also the reckoning of all the storylines that are coming together. I will catch up with you when I'm done. Well, that brings me to the end. Fuck me, I guess, cause goddamn. I always forget how much heart middle grade has, you know? And this one is no exception. Oh my god, these kids went through so much. Not real, they're characters, but why is it that we feel this way when reading books like they're real people? God, these kids went through so much. Well, I'm done this one. I've done it, and I'm feeling so many emotions. So that's good. It was good. It was very good. This book series is definitely a solid one if you guys are at all interested. It feels like an Aragon Lord of the Rings mix with like C.S. Lewis's books and a touch of like, I don't know, like Keeper of the Lost Cities almost. Like it just feels like a typical adventure, but it deals with so many interesting things. It's such an interesting world, and it has these like expansive moments where there's a battle at the end of this one that's just, it feels like it's pulled straight out of like a Lord of the Rings book. I did have issues with the writing throughout all three, but that's just because I'm an editor and the writing is slightly off at any places. That's what my brain latches onto. But this one was definitely good. It's definitely a fantastic trilogy. Highly recommend. If you have some readers in your life too that are like upper middle grade or lower YA, or even YA readers that want to read something that isn't YA in the sense of our YA books now, but they want to read something that's like adventure filled, but that isn't geared to like younger kids, definitely go with the books at the beginning, because these are just, there's something about them. I can see kids being really obsessed with these and with the world and the characters and finding themselves on these pages, because the three kids in here are just so wonderful. I think that's the best part of these books as a whole. These kids are just so good. They're so good. Thank you, Kat, for that. I'm gonna go cry for a bit now. It is also 20 to 2 in the morning, so I should probably sleep, but alright. It's time. We're diving in. We're here. We're doing it. And I'm so excited. The last book of this video. Let's go. I am currently just finishing up the recap from Shadow of the Gods, and I forgot literally everything that's happened in the previous book. And as I was going through this, I was like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh my god, that's so badass. So I'm ready to just love this book. I've already like made notes and stuff because I'm annotating this as well. I'm so ready. Hello friends, it's now a couple days later since I last talked to you, but I am halfway through The Hunger of the Gods. I'm currently on page 328, starting chapter 37. And I just love being in high fantasy worlds. I love it. And I just, every time I come back to something like this, the classic high fantasy, there's something about them that makes my heart sing. This is home for me. Yes, I'm really enjoying this sequel. It is intense and there's a lot of things going on, and I'm trying to pay close attention because I know like if I miss something, I'm gonna miss something, you know, like if I'm not like fully paying attention to it. I don't know what's gonna happen in here. These last 300 pages, I really don't know. I haven't heard much about this book, but I've heard that it's heartbreaking. So I'm ready, I think I'm ready, but I'm gonna try and finish a good chunk of this today. I'm gonna keep going, but I thought I'd update you. I'm about halfway through, loving it, living for all these characters, except for one point of view. I don't even remember his name. It starts with a G. Guthvar, I think his name is. Hate him. He needs to die. He annoys me so much. He's the worst of men. Like, not even like the cruel or outwardly like terrible slave traders that are in here. He's the kind of man that like has, one, has power, two, plays the victim all the time, three, believes that they're better than everyone, that kind of a person. So he needs to die because he is the most annoying, because he is the most realistic man in these pages, because we have these kind of men in our lives every day. Don't like him. Love everybody else. Living for Orca, my girl, my just, oh, I love her so much. I love women who wield weapons and are mad. That is just like my staple in literature and in fantasy, I guess. Like, oh, Gideon the Ninth is that. Orca is that. Just yes to that. But all right, next time you see me, I will be done Hunger of the Gods, and we'll be wrapping up this video, but let's do this. Hello friends. It is now a couple days later since I last talked to you, but I have finished Hunger of the Gods. That ending though, I am shook, I am baffled. If there's any indication of my feelings at the end of this, it was just a lot of no-no-nos. A lot of no. And just like, you know, well, I'll include a clip of my reaction to the ending as I was listening to it, but This was very good. Oh my god. Such a good sequel. Holy man. I was thinking about it the whole way through, like the stuff that's set up in Shadow of the Gods and then that is given to us in Hunger of the Gods, everything is stepped up. It is ramped up. Shit's hitting the fan, you know? And that's what you want a sequel to be. You want a sequel to be upping the ante, giving us this world, but like giving us more details of the world and more secrets, and things maybe are like exposed, and things like our belief systems that we've learned with the characters from the first book are kind of like, you know, thrown into the fire. Each of the characters from the first book have a like distinct goal in mind, and it brings them like into each other's paths, and it's a really interesting things that happen when they're in each other's paths. Oh god, it was just so good. This is a fantastic friggin' sequel. I really enjoyed this. Once I get home, because I'm currently at the cabin, I will wrap this up properly, but last book done. Hello friends, welcome to the end of this video. So happy that we're here. It is officially August 1st. I officially read all 8 of these books in this video. DNF'd one, but I read 8, so 9? So 9 books? But I read them all. We've had some mixed feelings, but overall, I enjoyed this TBR. We're just gonna start off. So talking first about Kat, my lovely beta reader, she ended up picking originally the second book in the Books of Beginning and the Mists of Avalon, which I have since unhauled off my shelves. And I also unhauled another Marion Zimmer Bradley book that I had on my shelves because I do not condone problematic authors. DNF that one, but in replacement of that, I ended up picking up the third books of the Books of Beginning. So I've now officially completed this trilogy, and I really enjoy this trilogy. It is a cute little middle grade. It feels like Aragon era style middle grade. It is very well done. I did have some issues with like the writing and the dialogue in this, but that's, you know, par for the course because I live in an editor brain, and I'm gonna have issues with writing sometimes. So I actually ended up giving this one, the second one, 3 stars, and then I gave this last one, the third one, 4 stars. So overall, I think I gave the first book 4 or 4.5 stars. It was very good and my favorite of the series, but overall, very solid, like 3.5, 4-star trilogy for me. Definitely very good. And I'm glad that I finished another trilogy, especially middle grade, because I love me some middle grade. My friend Sarah's picks, Sarah Sutton, who is an author and an author tuber here on the internet, but she ended up picking Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare and Bring Me Their Hearts by Sarah Wolfe. She picked one of the highest highs of this video and the lowest of lows of this video, because I ended up giving Chain of Iron 4.5 stars. Absolutely loved this so much. And I just love being back in Cassandra Clare's world. And yes, I have since pre-ordered the third book, don't worry. And this one I ended up giving 2 stars because I just really didn't jive. I really didn't jive with it. My friend Holly ended up picking Zachary, Ying and the Dragon Emperor by Sharon J. Zhao and Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. Both of these were pretty good, and I think I ended up giving them the same rating at the end of the day. Both of them gave them 3.5 stars. Good picks. For sure, very solid. Definitely enjoyable reads, and I will be continuing with both of these series at some point. Finally, my friend Hannah picked these 2 boys. She picked Truthwitch and Hunger of the Gods. Truthwitch came out to being a high 4-star, and the Hunger of the Gods came out to be 4.5 stars. So overall, we had, let's do this from the lowest of the low. So we had the 2 stars, and then we had 3-star, and then we had our 2 3.5 stars right there, and then we have our 4 stars on top of that, and then we ended this all with, that's the wrong way, with our 4.5 star reads. This would probably be my ranking from this video of like favorite to least favorite. I had a great time reading all of these books, and I wanted to thank my lovely friends from this internet and my friends just in general for being great and being wonderful people, and I wanted to thank you guys for watching, because this video is a behemoth, and if you made it all the way through, leave me a little book stack emoji down below, because I know this video is very long. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. I love this video because it allows me to kind of give the reins to somebody else, and as a mood reader, it's both terrifying to create a TBR and to stick to a TBR, but also as a Virgo who loves lists, very satisfying to complete said TBR and said list. So I love this, love this challenge, and it allowed me to get 8 books off my TBR. 9, 10, because I DNF'd and unhauled the Marion Zimmer Bradley book and removed another Marion Zimmer Bradley book from my shelf. So, you know, just great all around. Anyways, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in another video very, very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.